Tonight, we follow up on a paratransit story we first told you about. A 30-minute ride home, sometimes taking hours. And in one case, a disabled rider was dropped off at the wrong location. After our first story aired, more and more parents of disabled riders came forward to tell us about their paratransit troubles. They reached out to us because they said no one was giving them the answers they needed. Zach Donald's headed home. It's 10 miles from his day program for special needs adults in Berkeley to his house in Alameda. But his ride on East Bay Paratransit often takes close to 2 hours and sometimes a lot more.
He's been on the bus for 3-4 hours at a time.
Zach's mother, Jean Donald, contacted us after seeing our story about Jonathan Tomasini's 2 to 3 hour commute ordeals.
I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I understand exactly what this person is going through.
We put a tracker in Jonathan's backpack for 2 months and discovered buses taking him on huge detours before dropping him off at home. Jean keeps a tracker on her son, too. She says Zach's been all the way south to Fremont and north as far away as Richmond. That 3-hour ride caused him to be incontinent.
And he said, Mom, I'm sorry. And I felt so bad because he was ashamed of himself. You know, you work hard to help them have their independence. And for him to be ashamed of something that he didn't have control over, that wasn't part of anything that he had to do with, it was really very difficult.
Zach and Jonathan are not alone. Many other families with disabled parents, siblings, and children contacted us following our first report. So how many of you have lodged complaints more than once? Raise your hand. So we gathered them together for a group interview. Denise Music came to talk about her daughter, Cara.
My daughter goes home to San Leandro. She doesn't go home with the San Leandro kid. She ends up in Fremont.
Beth Powell spoke out for her 98-year-old mother.
She has a weekly standing order every Thursday from 11 to 11:30. Pick up from a certain place in Oakland, Chinatown, going home. I would say probably more than half of the time she would have to wait beyond the half-hour pickup window.
Dana Oots told us he recently waited over an hour for a bus that turned out to be waiting for him just around the corner.
And they're just so antiquated in keeping the riders updated on the status of a ride.
Thoet Moore's daughter, Thoet Jr., even got delivered to the wrong home.
They took her somewhere else. They took her to another child's house. And that woman came on and says, who is this?
Complaints, this group told us, go nowhere.
I would call paratransit, and it's like talking to a robot. It's the same line, it's the same question, week after week after week.
I think if you're more vocal, like when we called and complained, then he would arrive on time, but then it would start to taper off again.
Yes.
Then you'd see them be an hour late, then 2 hours late.
It's a very scary thing for us because Kelly is nonverbal, so we don't know if she's not home by a certain time, where is she, and she can't tell us what happened during that trip.
You're angry?
I am angry. This is our money. This is public dollars. Because all of that money comes from gas tax, from county measures and everything else. All of that is public dollars, and it is given off to a for-profit company.
That for-profit company is Transdev, a private multinational corporation. AC Transit pays 69% of the annual $43 million cost. BART covers the remaining 31%. What do you think about that when you hear it's a private company and it's one company?
Well, there's a huge disconnect. So you're filing your complaint with a private contractor, but you don't know if the eyes and ears of the decision makers are getting your complaint.
We have standards that we strive to meet each and every day.
In an earlier interview, East Bay Paratransit's general manager, Jay Jeter, told us,
we try to build the route so that it's safe and it's comfortable for our passengers, and we make it so that it's efficient, so that people can get to and from locations as quickly as we can get them there.
But our group isn't buying it.
I was blown away by the interview that you did with the manager, who acted like this was the first time he was hearing about this and he was going to look into it. Well, obviously that's not true. Thank you very much.
Though his son Jonathan is now getting home in record time, David still came to support others.
You seem to have no incentive to address this seriously, and hopefully a program like this will light a fire.
Back in Alameda, after we alerted East Bay Paratransit about Zach, He too is now on the fast track home. But how long will it last, and how many other families may be getting the short end of the stick?
I will be surprised if it lasts because, I mean, the problems are still there. And I think it's invisible population because it's the elderly, the disabled, and nobody cares until it's them.
Now, we reached out to AC Transit and BART for comment. Since their agencies are paying for the service, they both referred us back to TransDev's Jay Jeter. So far, no one is acknowledging an oversight role.
Is TransDev a local company?
No, it's actually based in Illinois, and so we plan to reach out and talk to them to find out if this is actually like a system-wide problem or if it's just happening to riders here in the Bay Area. And keep in mind, this story was brought to us by a viewer, and if you have a story you'd like to have us look into or even add to this one, please email us at newstips@kpix.com.
Well, good story. Yeah, good stuff. Thanks for watching. 60 Minutes is coming up next.
Driving cars because they tend to be more hesitant than a human driver. Over the past 3 months, we've been highlighting a problem plaguing people with special needs in the Bay Area. Many who are not able to take public transit rely on paratransit buses that are notoriously slow and unreliable.
And tonight, Juliette Goodrich says that one East Bay official is taking action in response to our reports.
It's horrible.
BART Director Deborah Allen says something must be done after seeing our reports about the hardships endured by disabled riders on East Bay Paratransit buses.
Taxpayers are spending $43 million a year on East Bay Paratransit. We have to look into this.
We put a tracker in Jonathan Tomasini's backpack for 2 months and discovered buses taking him on huge detours, sometimes more than 3 hours long, on his trip home to Oakland from adult day school, just 19 miles away in Castro Valley.
He was crying. He was really upset.
Same thing for Zach Donald. It's 10 miles from his day program in Berkeley to his house in Alameda, but his bus ride home was also taking him way off track.
Zachary has been on the bus far too long. He's been on the bus for 3-4 hours at a time.
In an earlier interview, East Bay Paratransit's general manager, Jay Jeter, told us,
if we get concerns from a rider or concerns from a passenger or a family member, we try to address those situations. We will make adjustments to the route.
After we told him about Jonathan and Zach, both are now arriving home in record time. Raise your hand if the reason why you are here is because you've lodged complaints and have not seen results. But this group of disabled East Bay residents and family members told us for them, nothing has changed. All echoed the same stories about long waits and even longer rides. And they told us their complaints go nowhere.
I know to file a complaint by phone, by email, and by letter. And usually it doesn't get me anywhere. It goes into the black hole.
Yeah, and we didn't know where to take it. I mean, we can lodge our complaint, but then what do we do after that?
Exactly.
A private multinational corporation called TransDev operates East Bay Paratransit, but it's funded with public dollars. BART and AC Transit pay $43 million a year for the service. Neither agency would talk to us, but BART's Deborah Allen says her agency must bear responsibility.
The contract between BART, AC Transit, and the broker, TransDev, that contract states that BART has oversight on audit and compliance of what goes on in the program. So I am actually in the process of inquiring as to how much oversight we are doing. So I'm going to briefly just tell you there were 4 items called out in that report.
Her first stop, a monthly meeting of the BART Accessibility Task Force, where she hand-delivered copies of a 2015-2016 audit conducted by the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. It calls on East Bay Paratransit to eliminate service denials and reduce late trip cancellations, passenger no-shows, and reduce mechanical failures. Allen suggested the group check to see if those recommendations are actually being followed.
So I think this is an area that we can really make a difference and we could try to work to improve, and I know that that's what your task force is here for.
I know from the committee, I know from the members, I know from the past, this is a big issue, and it's something that I know everybody has 2 or 3 stories on and something that everybody can speak on, but I think it's something we need to take a deeper look into and a deeper dive into, because it is an ongoing challenge.
In Oakland, Juliette Goodrich, KPIX 5.
We contacted Transdev's corporate headquarters in Maryland, and they tell us that they are preparing a comprehensive data-driven analysis of paratransit services in the East Bay. They anticipate that report will be completed shortly. We will report on that as soon as they give it to us.
It's nice to be able to see the fireworks tonight, even from a great distance.
For months now, we have been reporting on a problem plaguing some of the Bay Area's most vulnerable residents. People with special needs that are not able to take public transit have been stuck with a transportation service that is painfully slow and sometimes unreliable. Tonight, there are finally signs that our reports have shaken things up. Jerry Lebo is headed out the door to see her doctor. She's disabled and depends on East Bay Paratransit to get there. Her pickup window is 8:23 to 8:53. But this morning, as usual, her ride is running late.
I have about 8:40. It gets to be very frustrating.
By 8:55, she's reaching for her phone.
Your call is very important to us.
And finally gets through.
It should be another 25 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm going to miss my doctor's appointment. I'm going to be late.
It's a scenario she says she has been through way too many times.
I've canceled at St. Rose about 5 times because of them.
So how many of you have lodged complaints more than once? Raise your hand. In a 9-month investigation, we discovered dozens of other disabled and special needs Bay Area residents complaining about the same kind of shoddy treatment. Jonathan Tomasini has been forced to sit on the bus for 2 to 3 hours on his way home from school, causing him to become incontinent at times. Zach Donald has also been stuck on the bus long hours. GPS tracking devices revealed the delays were caused by buses taking long detours.
This is happening all the time.
This bus driver for East Bay Paratransit wants to remain anonymous. She says the detours are to pick up extra passengers that always get added onto her daily route at the last minute. So you have added passengers?
Added passengers, and for each one it takes 20 to 25 minutes out of your schedule of driving.
How often is this happening?
Every day, all day long.
And she says the dispatch computers are outdated and the call center understaffed.
When we call, they'll say, "I'm sorry it took so long to get you. There's only 2 of us here."
A private for-profit corporation called Transdev runs the call center here at this office on Broadway in Oakland. Transdev contracts with local bus companies to provide transportation. Transportation paid by public dollars, mostly through AC Transit and BART.
It's horrible. We are currently, taxpayers are spending $43 million a year on East Bay Paratransit.
Our series of reports prompted BART Director Deborah Allen to take action.
We have to look into this, and I intend to call for an audit of this whole process.
In an email, a BART spokesperson told us the agency is waiting for Transdev to release a promised operations review and analysis report.
We will be upgrading our navigation system.
And according to this recorded message, East Bay Paratransit is upgrading its dispatch operations. Jerry Lebo says if that's true, it's about time.
And I don't think that we should be treated like that, or that we should have to go through this just for a ride.
After waiting almost 2 hours for a bus that never showed up, a taxi finally arrived to take her to the doctor. And we will follow up on these upgrades. But as it turns out, Jerry tells me by the time she got there, the doctor was too busy to see her. And we just got a call from her last week. She was going on about 3 hours waiting for a paratransit bus at a supermarket. We will continue to follow this up.